Good evening. How we doing tonight? Y'all, it's been a struggle. Best friend, my hat is doing the fool right now, so let's just pray my strength, okay? Because this hat is about to be tossed over it. Like, let's just laugh. Let's just go ahead and get this over with. On Facebook Live, I look like quite possibly I didn't match my face to my neck. I don't know what's happening. On Instagram, I look completely normal. So, this is going to be one of those days. I don't know what's happening. I was like, why do I look ashy on Facebook? This is so disrespectful. Anywho, hello, and welcome. Y'all, this is my song. I love Robert Glasper. And actually, one of my mentees and their mom called me a few days ago and sent me something that they felt was reminiscent of kind of just my approach to music. And it was something that Robert Glasper was covering. So I was just like, hey, people get it, they understand it. So that was really cool. Okay. Y'all see my best friend, she said I was a little khaki. She gets on my nerves. All right, hello, and welcome. I am excited about being on tonight. I have a conversation that I want to have with you guys regarding the law of attraction. And I am not going to go like knee deep into like all of the traditional definitions because that's not really my aim for tonight's topic. But I do want us to really be a little bit more mindful when it comes to what we're putting out into the universe or our atmospheres. And when I say universe, I'm not speaking in the way in which, people are saying, the universe brings back to you and as a replacement of deity or Christ, because to know me is to know that yes, I am a diehard Christian, and so I'm not speaking of it in that manner, but I am talking about mindfulness when it comes to what we are projecting in our atmospheres, in our circles, social circles, and families, and things like that. So let me minimize my screens here and see if I can pull up my notes simultaneously because I need them. Also, I want to share kind of what I am reading for June because, we love a good book. So if you guys are interested, I am reading this book entitled Somebody's Daughter. It's a memoir by Ashley Ford. The description of the book was something that was just like, yes, you need to pick up and grab. I found it at Amazon. You guys know I love a good Amazon find, but I'm sure every other book outlet has it available. It's a pretty short read. I haven't started it, but we're only looking at about 200 some odd pages, so I can probably finish this in a weekend, which is probably what I would do. I will come back and let you know, but I do think it's a storyline that plenty of us could identify with, so check that out if you don't already have it. Again, it's called Somebody's Daughter. I'd like to hear your feedback on it. All right, into tonight's topic. I had a whole moment on my way to a client meeting today listening to TD Jakes' sermon from this past Sunday. If you guys have not checked that out, please do. I sent it to a couple people and was like, tune in right now. And he was really speaking to, what you're doing next is going to require an intentional leap out of what is current. It can't be something that's a gradual phasing out of, but it is something that is going to require an immediate conviction and then implementation of you taking a forward stride. And it talked about, just how sometimes we find ourselves in precarious scenarios where people have made us out to be something that we never even said we were. And they built us up to this identity that wasn't aligned with our truth. And then when we failed to live up to who they claimed we were, then they discarded of us, not because we weren't worthy, but we didn't fit the mold of their expectation. And so a lot of that had a lot to do with what I wanted to discuss process tonight, because if you find yourself in a scenario where you feel that you have failed, or you didn't serve well, and then you're like, but I did show up and I didn't send a representative of me, but I truly showed up as myself. It could be those opportunities where people have tried to box you into what was palatable for them, and then when you failed to deliver, then you were disposed of. And so tonight I want to talk about the law of attraction from a little bit of a different stance. I really want us to kind of hang our hats on the intentionality of pulling more of what we truly need and desire into our spheres, but in order to do that, we have to make room. A lot of us don't have any more capacity. We are at capacity with, yes, y'all, I love a good red lip. It's my favorite on the planet Earth. Tonight, you guys are getting all of me and all the feels because I haven't been on in a month. So, if I derail because I'm chit chatting with you guys via what you're putting in the comments, just let's live, let love and live, okay? So that was my niece. She said, yes, red lip. To know me is to know I love a good pop of color. All right. So, Jamila, stay focused. Listen, I don't want to talk about this with this negative cloud. I really want to spend more time on the positive, on the up and up, because I don't know about you guys, but we have been through a kicker of 2021. I mean, can you guys believe it? We're in the 6th month of this year already. I feel like it has flown by. I don't know about you guys personally, but I have had an interesting ride so far. To all the parents who have survived the school year and our kiddos have officially finished, hallelujah. Thank you, Lordy, up above. Do you understand? Because we have been through it, okay? We have been teachers, we have been nurses, but did y'all notice the babies wasn't as sick as they normally are when, you don't have to be, teacher, nurse, what is it, extracurricular planner, when, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like AJ had far less colds than ever, but I told somebody, I think it's because they kept the mask on those children and they had to keep their cooties, to themselves. So I am in favor of keep the mask because it made y'all's children have to keep their cooties and my baby didn't bring them home. Nevertheless, we have officially finished 3rd grade. I'm so proud of my munchkin. He got all A's and B's for the final quarter. I am the parent that believes that you should celebrate your child's potential. I don't really like all of the harp about, oh my God, my child's so great, because they're living up to this facade of perfection that you've created for them. I do believe that you celebrate that child's best at whatever margin that best is for that child. And when you do that, you teach that child to always strive for a higher level of excellence while operating with humility, because there's always going to be someone better. But as long as you're doing your personal best, you are worthy of celebration. So let's just make sure that we implement that in our constructive criticism to our children. Alrighty. So on to attracting more of what you need and love and disposing of what you no longer need. If you guys read the kind of synopsis that I had on the story, we're talking about how your thought life is attracting more of what you're thinking. And in order for us to kind of hone in on that, I want us to talk about really what is a thought, because I don't think that we can really talk about how we're creating realities with thought until we first identify what a thought is. If you look up thinking or thought in the dictionary, it's very ambiguous, right? It's not really, it's like the art of thinking. Okay, what the heck is the art of thinking, Jamila? Like, I mean, and that's not me, that's Merriam-Webster and Google, and Siri in them. But fundamentally, our thoughts are maps or they're representations. So they correspond to things that have happened in our brain, has either perceived them through our senses, we felt them in our emotions, or we formed them as an action on a plan. Okay, so what are thoughts? Things that our brains have perceived through our senses, they felt through our emotions, or we formed of actions or action plans. The reason that's important to understand is because if you paid attention to our last episode, I kept talking about, the conception of a thing in one's mind and how that really forms realities. And it's because it is something that you've meditated on, something that you have then given life to, and you start to develop courses based on what those worlds you've created are in your mind look like. So tonight I really want us to think about this while we go down this path, because when we think about a map and why we use a map, ultimately we're using the map to show us how to get from point A to point B, right? And if you're familiar with map making, or you think about satellite images, right, this is something that is taking an image of what's below from a higher vantage point, having a better surveillance of the area, and then telling you the best route to get from where you're at to where you're trying to go. And so in your mind, though, memories do that for us as well, and it helps us create muscle memory. It helps us create mental maps. It helps us to develop a way in which we want to then show up in our worlds based on what our brains have already mapped out for us. Okay, so if you think about it, if you're caught off guard by the sound of thunder, your immediate response to the sound has everything to do with the map that your brain has connected to that sound itself. Okay, so for some, it provokes fear, right? Or fright. We jump. Well, there's a nervousness to it. So some people, they can stay completely calm. It just depends on the map that your brain has created for that scenario. And so why is that important, and what does that have to do with the law of attraction? The scenarios that you create in your mind ultimately determine how you're going to have a response in real time. And so if you have had a lot of trauma, or you've had a lot of scenarios that have caused you to jump into a fight or flight mode, you are fight or flight, mode, when that trigger happens, you show up in that present moment based on the map that your mind has created. So if you find yourself continuing to attract fear, or you're attracting an anxious environment or anxious people, or you're attracting something that maybe you feel is less than favorable, a lot of that has to do with how you're showing up, right? Because what you tend to give off is what is reciprocated back to you. So if we want something different, then we have to give off something different. Like, we cannot continue to give off anger, angst, or fear and expect to receive joy, peace, and composure. That they're not the same. And so in this time where we're going into the next, 6 months of the year, we're going to the latter half of the year, the seasons are changing. If it's not already summer, I believe summer is right around the corner, right? And so we're in the middle of changing seasons. In this time, I really want us to be cognizant of what is the scent that we're giving off. I was having this conversation. I didn't have a title for it. I didn't really know what to say. But honestly, where this formulated for me was, I was thinking about, how you give off a scent, or you give off an aroma, and it attracts what is in favor of that aroma, that scent, or what have you, right? And so the bees are attracted to the honey, what have you. If the aura or the scent that you're giving off is bringing you something maybe that you didn't anticipate, you might want to go back and address the scent, because so many of us are like, oh, I don't understand why I continue to attract X. Well, it has everything to do with what you're putting off. Okay. Someone asked me when school resumes. It's going to start at a weird time this year, thanks to Forbin ISD and COVID. I don't know. Okay, we'll come back to that, Carm. So, what I want to do is, I want us to just kind of think for a moment, okay? And don't breeze past this, but I want us to have some intentionality about it. And I really want you to just take inventory of your life, your social circles, your professional arenas. Just really take inventory of that. And if you find that you're not attracting what you need or what you love in this season, can we start with pointing the finger back at ourselves? Like, I really want some personal accountability. Because it's so easy to blame the external factors, but until we address the internal, the external really is just a mirror of what's going on internally for us. Okay, so if we find chaos in our external, there could be a lack of peace internally. If we find criticism and our external. It could be that we have a lot of negative chatter internally. If we find joy in our external, it could be because we become centered and we are in love with who we are internally, and we are attracting more of that on an external level. For me in this season, you guys, I have had the opportunity to have some great resolves in some areas that have taken quite a while, just to be frank. It took me a very long time to come to a place of peace with some things in my life. But the thing that really just over the last maybe 2 weeks or so just became clear to me was that, I had a growing concern about being able to curate um, atmospheres and associations that were befitting for the woman that I had become. And I didn't really know how to do that. And honestly, I didn't have to curate it. It was a matter of letting go of some things that I had held on to far longer than I should have. And when I begin to release those things and let go of the bitterness and let go of the anger and all of the negative feelings that I had attached to those things, I was able to see life through a different lens, because the smog had been, taken off of my lenses, if you will. And so at the point where I was able to see things differently, honestly, everything that I had thought I was lacking or was going to need, I was able to see that it had been there all along. I just hadn't been looking at it properly. And so in this season, if you were like, I don't have enough of X, or I need, to maybe shift into this environment to be this, or I need to do this, I would just ask you if you could just take a moment and say, am I looking at what's before me properly, right? If we think about it, when the man was blind and Jesus, he did the whole spit in the dirt and put the clay on the eyes. When he originally was able to see, he initially didn't have full clarity of thought. He still thought that men presented themselves as trees, right? The thing that I find to be interesting about that story, for someone who didn't see but then could identify an element of nature with partial sight, that in itself to me was still a testimony, because it wasn't, now he could have decided to stay with, I see men as trees, and that would be the clarity that he would be left with. But he, something to me, if I had to make a wholly yes, if you will, I would say maybe he knew there could be more to that, because it wasn't, the clarity that he was looking for wasn't spot on. So he went back to the one who helped him, or was still engaged with the one who was helping him, and saying, I see this, but I don't see it as clearly maybe as I think I have the ability to. And so then he was able to regain and see it even better. And so in this season, maybe it is that you see more than you've seen before, but you still don't see it in full clarity. And that is going to require some detoxing of our thought life. It's going to require some detoxing of holding on to things that we need to relinquish, so that we can attract more of what we really need, love and desire, in this portion of our journeys. So some ways, let's make these action items. Some ways in which we can do this is spend less time with negative people and spend more time with the people who require you to be authentic. Spend more time with the people who don't allow you to show up as a representation of yourself. They can see through that, and they call you on it, and they say, no, I demand that you be you. I require the truth of you. I am capable and I have capacity to house all of you. I believe that when you shift the mindset to that, and you begin to pour into those type of connections and align yourself with those groups of people, you begin to attract more of it, because you have really put all of the negativity to the back, and your intention is about growth. It is about positivity. It is about love. It is about compassion. And then you begin to really show up as a person who is loving, who is compassionate, who is positive, who wants other people to have the freedom of authenticity. And you begin to attract more of that. And then as you attract more of that, you really shift the sphere of the individuals, because this is my primary focus, and these are the people that I am called to, and I'm called to these people, and these people are called to me. Um, Another way that we begin to attract more of what we love into our spheres is really to target our own negative chatter, target where we tend to be very critical and judgmental, first with ourselves, because honestly, if you think about it, it is probably easier to have a conversation about positivity with other people sometimes than it is with ourselves. But as we begin to speak to ourselves in a way that we want to speak to others, speaking to others becomes easier. And then when people speak to us in a positive tone, it isn't something that we are foreign to. It isn't something that we shun. It isn't something that creeps us out, because this is the chatter that I give myself. You are merely affirming what I already say. I am not disqualifying how I affirm others, because I first am affirming and qualifying myself. Now, will there be moments where you may miss the mark and you need people around you who can say, hey, let's get back on track? Absolutely. And that goes back to the first point about spending your time with the people that require your authentic self to show up, because they know when you're sending a representation, they know when you're shrinking, they know when you're not being all of who you have the capacity to be, and they call you on it and they require you to show up. They don't allow you to settle. So this is another reason why we've got to address our negative chatter. We've got to be mindful of our social settings and our groups and our support system. And then when we're doing that, this is where we have a continual practice of self-reflection about our social groups. Just because relationships were doesn't mean that they always will be. Just because we've had certain jobs, or we've even maybe taken a certain course of study, at some point in life we may evolve beyond that. And so regular assessment of what we are associating ourselves with, or even maybe even allowing ourselves to be associated with, possibly, we need to have that as something that we look at continually. I don't think we do that enough. And so sometimes we find ourselves wondering, like, how did I get so far down this path? It's because we just started coasting and we stopped assessing those we were with and those that we allowed ourselves to be connected to. So really routinely ask yourself, is this space or is this group of people dragging me down, or are they pulling me up? Am I in a sphere where I'm constantly criticized and not celebrated or even coached? If you find that your pros and cons are a little skewed, you have to look at that and then determine, is it time for me to make some critical changes? Is it time for me to have some necessary endings, or is it maybe time for me to just have some hard conversations? Because every relationship goes through seasons, and you have to understand the person you were 4 years ago is not who you are today. Neither are the people that are on the other side. So as people continue to grow and evolve, just an evaluation period is necessary. And are the relational roles shifting? And if they are, that's perfectly okay. Let's just make sure everybody's aware of that, so we're aligning our expectations with the capacity of that person's role in my life. Sorry, my allergies have been doing some very funky things today, so if I sound a little like Kermit the Frog, forgive. Okay. The other thing that I want us to do is to build a network of supporters. Now listen, when I say a network of supporters, I'm just not talking about your social preference. We need a network of supporters in every kind of compartment of our life. Okay. I don't believe that one person can be it all unless you're attached to your soulmate, your partner, your life person, who God has joined you with. And then maybe it's different. However, when we're thinking about relational partners and professional partners and social partners, they're all very different, right? You could be friends with someone who has a very different career path than you, so maybe they can't be a support in that because it's not what they're familiar with. So we need to be aligning ourselves with people that can be supportive and in multi areas of our lives, and honor their commitment to us. Because if people show up as a business support system to us, honor the fact that they probably are also involved in business dealings. They are also busy. They also have other things that they have to consider, but they love you enough to pour into you. don't waste their time. So if they give you their time, maximize that time. Know the questions that you want to ask. Be open to feedback that may require more of you, but honor that relationship. If you're dealing with people in a social setting and it's really just about having fun, okay, then keep things light and don't expect for them to become your mentors, because you are dealing with them on a social level. So this is going to be the point in which we're just attracting people that just maybe have similar likes as us, and we know that when we get together it's just going to be a good time, and those are the expectations. Whatever it is, if you're looking for somebody that can be a spiritual accountability partner, they have to be able to see you in the spirit. I think sometimes we yoke up with people unaware of their ability to see, and so if they can't see you beyond surface level, they may not be the best spiritual accountability partner, because they may know how to pray surfacely, but they may not be able to go to the core of what it requires for you to elevate in the spirit. So just be cognizant of, and you got to attract that. So, but you also have to exude it. Again, you're going to get back more of what you put out. Okay, so if you think about it that way, if I'm cynical, I'm going to receive more critique. If I am joyful, I will probably receive more of that back from others. But the idea is really you got to be what you need more of. Does that make sense? So if I need more peace, then I've got to show up as one who is compassionate toward others. If I need more love, I've got to be able to then show up as someone who is able to love people wherever they are in their life, and loving them at their level and dealing with them accordingly, whatever that looks like. One of my personal favorites when it comes to attracting more of what we need in love is the practice of gratitude. I do know that sometimes this topic gets a little murky because you find it in few different kind of religious spheres. And people are like, well, that's tied to this or tied to X. I don't know that I believe that, but I can tell you personally, the art of practicing gratitude shift the trajectory of my life at a very pivotal point, when things just kind of were going every way but right. For me, and I had an intention to find something to be grateful for, no matter what was happening, and there was a lot going on, but it was a matter of me writing down the things that I was most grateful for, and then when maybe something did go differently, so according to plan, I would then still practice gratitude. Like the things that I was grateful for that day, they didn't shift because the day wasn't going in the direction that I had hoped. Yes, this may be happening, yet I'm grateful for this, and keeping it at the forefront so that I could continue to keep my mindset above the turmoil that was happening. This is how we create that. Like, you can't allow yourself to just be pulled and swayed in every single direction that the day brings. You have to have a level of balance. You have to have a level of intentionality that does allow you to sustain your peace and maintain your joy. You're responsible for that. You cannot put that on somebody else's shoulders to cultivate for you. You have to take personal responsibility for how you're going to be impacted by the world around you, which again is a lot easier to do when there is an internal peace. Okay. I had a gratitude journal. Seriously, you guys, I was adamant about not starting my day until I wrote in that journal. And I had gotten to the point to where I was being grateful for what I was hoping to have happen. And maybe it hadn't, come to fruition just yet, but it was something that was on my list of things that I was hoping for, and I was remaining grateful for those things. When I worked in an environment that required me to really carry the emotional strain of other people. I work in HR, guys, so typically when people call me, they're calling me with the heavy stuff, and I had to show up for those people in a way that helped them to feel like they could still get through the rest of their day, or they could they have maybe this particular crisis going on at home, but I want to be able to show up and do well in my job. And so my personal responsibility to those coworkers was to say, hey, listen, you have this as your goal set today. If you can just maybe focus on maybe 1 to 2 things that are going to get you closer in the direction of what it is you're hoping to achieve maybe in the next 3 to 6 months, let's focus on that. Yeah, we've got these other things and we've got these other fires to put out, but if we can keep our mind focused on the goal. And honestly, we typically will see that those things that we were allowing to rob us of our peace, rob us of our focus, are secondary things that don't really have much weight. They have as much power as we give them, and we restrict their power and their ability to derail us when we don't give them the attention that they desire. We focus on the things and the people who matter. In this season of your life, if I can leave you with anything that can become an immediate action item, focus on the things and the people who matter. I am telling you, when you direct your focus and you tunnel vision in on those things, I mean, you'll start to cultivate a life that you are at peace with, that you're satisfied with, and you'll find yourself moving into what you have been prepping for, the things that you've been praying for, the things that you've been planning for. They start to come with ease. I'm telling you, a single conversation can change the trajectory of your life when you are in a position to receive what you've been preparing for. A lot of us are not in a position to receive what we've been praying for, are hoping for, are consecrating ourselves for, wherever you are in your spiritual walk, because maybe, fasting is not what you do. I'm not here to condemn. There may be some people who are just like, I've been in wait for these things. But if you're waiting in a posture that is negative, or you're waiting in a posture that's downtrodden, it's hard for you to see what's above you when you're focused on what's beneath you. So in this season, really, let's focus in on what's going to get us to our next thing. And while we're doing that, let's honor our present. I think we spend a lot of time setting intentions on the future and setting our focus on the future that we don't really get to embody the gift of our present. You have to be present in every single moment. We're missing opportunities to exercise gratitude because we're not honed in on the moment. I mean, think about it. We have more time, really, honestly. We have more time and more flexibility than we've probably had in a really long time. And there are some goals that you really could be chipping away at if we were better managers of our time, and if we were cognizant about constantly reevaluating our social circles, to make sure that those who are in proximity of us have capacity to help expand us. And maybe, you never know. Your social circle can be the one to open the door for you. You never know. The other thing that I want to talk about, and then I'm gonna end on another part, is not feeling like this is a journey that's going to be something that you tackle and become successful with on your own. We need people. We need basic human interaction. And honestly, we've gotten away from that because so many practices now require one to be self-reliant, and you're manifesting. And it's like, well, no, not totally. I mean, there are some people that are here to help you. There are some people that have really gone before you to lay ground for you to be able to walk past, probably a little easier than they would have been able to, but that was their ministry to you. You just may never know. So honor the people in your circles that are there to serve your purpose, because they could be pulling you to the next thing that you need to, unbeknownst to you, simply by mentioning your name in the right room to the right person on the right day. Okay, so just we've got to do that. So it's important. So think about that. And the one thing that I want to talk about before we end tonight is choosing your news wisely. Information can come at us, from so many different portals now. Many of us look at our phones before we look at anything else throughout the day. We probably have 2 to 3 tabs open on our laptops at any given time. So information is coming. And at some point, you've got to know how to filter through what you need, the information that you need. And if you use social media handles, whatever you are, follow things that bring you joy. Follow personalities that cause a positive vibration in you when you look at their stuff. You can unfollow, you can unlike, you can unfriend. It's awesome, honestly, and it is a way of self-preservation and mental wellness. I think some of us, I don't know why this is, and I've been guilty of it too, but like, we don't unfollow and we don't unfriend people who we don't do life with anymore, because we feel obligated, or like we feel guilty about like not being friends with them on social media sites, or not following their stories, or that is ridiculous. You need to choose your news wisely. If when you look at it, it brings you down, if when you look at it, it takes you to a place emotionally that you don't want to go, stop looking at it. I mean, seriously, like, swipe off, delete, unfriend, subscribe to give your attention to what you require in this season. And it may not be that, maybe it's, you take a break. That's an option on a lot of these social media handles as well. Like, I'm not completely doing away with you, but, at this point in time in my life, I can't do that with you. That's fine, you guys. And, what they tell you, shush, we won't tell them. So, I mean, I don't know why we feel so badly about that and we don't do it. But like, this is a matter of minding your mind. And I know I say that a lot, but think about it. Like, the information that you are bringing into your mind is something that goes through a sensory filtration. And when it triggers things, it takes us places maybe either we want to go or we felt like we were past, and it brings up some other stuff. You get to choose what you subscribe to. Okay, so let's choose our news wisely. And then if you find stuff that brings you joy, it puts a smile on your face, share it. Like, reshare that kind of stuff. I see so much negativity reshared, reposted. I mean, bad news travels faster than good news on any given day. And it's just like, if there's something that ministered to you, or there's something that brought you joy, there's something that you want to see more of, like, you do realize the algorithms are going to create more of what you personally click on, what you give your attention to. So if you see more of this stuff that you don't want to be interested, that you claim you're not interested in anymore, well, Google says yes you are, because you look at this on this portal, you look at this on this, you look at that on that. I mean, they track your activity across like apps now and websites now. So I mean, it's going to create more of what you continue to give your attention to. That is not the law of Jamila. That is fact. I mean, look at you. If you open your Netflix app right now, um, and you look at what it populates as suggestions for you, that is based on the last few things that you watch. You go to somebody else's and they open their app and it's like a completely different Netflix. And you're like, what? This is on here? Who knew? Yeah, it's not showing you that because you're not displaying interest in it. So again, the law of attraction, you're going to get more of what you put out. So if you want more recommendations of this, then you got to give that out. What does the Bible say? He who wants friends has to show himself friendly. Like, if you want to be a professional in this arena, then you've got to learn how to talk that language. If you want to be a world-renowned orator, then you've got to learn how to become an effective communicator. You have to sharpen your skills. You always have to be you. Yes, I'm not saying, over-evolve out of oneself, but there's always something to be learned. There's always something to be polished. There's always something to further develop. And in this season, you guys, all we have is now. And I am at such a place in peace to be and I don't know, this weight is like, we love you, we don't want to go nowhere. And I'm like, oh no, I hate you, I want you to go away. And I had to have a conversation with my best friend, who I love because she gets me together. And we had a conversation about it today, and it was about, honoring your body and honoring that it has been good to you, it has stuck with you. Your body has gone through a global pandemic. Mine went through a major surgery in the pandemic. And we have gone through so much, and we have to honor our bodies by understanding that this is the only one we're getting, right? We're not getting a new one. And how we treat it, how we speak to it, how we present it to the world has everything to do with how we view it internally. And so I want to attract more of what I say to you guys. And so for me, that's going to require some alterations in my internal chatter, and I can admit that. But I'm grateful that I have people in my life who understand that yes, I pour, but I also have to be poured back into, because we're all human and we all have that thing. We all have something that we are trying to, work on or make better. And so let's attract what we need and what we love by being that. Like that's my final point. We're gonna attract more of it by becoming it. And so I would ask you guys to maybe, as your journal prompt, ask yourself, I would be X if I would stop doing Y. And so let's think about it. Like I would be much further along in my career if I would stop undervaluing my professional contributions to my organization. I would be a much better friend if I prioritize the people who I say I love in my schedules. I stopped making them optionals, but I made them requirements. I would be a better whatever. Like, let's just think about that. I would be X if I would stop doing Y. And really ask yourself that question because it's true. And we all have something that we can be better at. We have not arrived. We are ever evolving. Perfection is something we are never going to achieve on planet Earth. So get over it. You can though be your best. You can reach your highest potential by choosing to show up as you in the environments that are capable of housing you, of hosting you, of grooming you, and ultimately helping you grow. So I love you guys. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Again, Facebook, I don't really know why she on the y'all's camera on Instagram. I look perfectly fine. I don't know. It's a thing. I love y'all. Have a wonderful night. I am so excited. Today was the last day of school, so I can let my baby stay up a little bit later. We're gonna watch some stuff on Netflix. We're gonna have us a good all night. I love y'all. Mwah. Have a good night. Bye.